Thank you, Gal. Thank you, Anna. Now Emanuel and myself will show you how to design products with accessibility in mind. So we will go through different design phases and talk about different accessibility criteria we can implement in those phases. So we will talk about the UX phase, about shaping products content, then when we design the overall UI and design systems, and we will finish off with some good practices and further reading for you. And of course, at the end, you will get a chance to ask us questions. But first, a little bit about me. I studied graphic design. I started working as a graphic designer in a design studio. I was creating visual identities for different brands. And then around 6 years ago, I career switched to UX UI designer. And I've been in Infinum for more than 6 years now. I worked on many mobile and web apps projects, basically. One of my bigger projects was Moja RBA, which is a mobile banking app. And here, accessibility is actually quite important and crucial because every user needs to access their most personal data like this, financial data. So yeah, it was where we kick off the whole accessibility in mind. So also, beside projects, I like to write blog posts. This one is my most famous one. It's about dark patterns on the web, where we as designers, but also users, need to be aware of different scams and pushy techniques. So it's a good read, not just because I wrote it, but it's an interesting topic. And that's about me now.
Thanks, Anna. I'm Emanuel. I was studying graphic design and engineering. I wanted to work as a designer in IT, so I thought that makes sense. For the past years, I've been working at Infinum, and out of those 5 for free, I was working on Philips Master Connect, which is an app for installation of smart lighting systems in commercial buildings. And even though the user base of this app is like super limited, only light system installers are using that app. These are like totally not models. Even like accessibility is important even for them, because when they are like installing the smart lights on the ceiling, they're using the app, and they're usually like on a ladder or handling some other tools. So yeah, even for them, accessibility is super important, no matter how small and limited the user base is. If you'd like to know more about it, you can read it on Infinum's blog, where I wrote a blog post about designing for IoT. And now let's dive into product UX with accessibility in mind. And let's be real, navigation it makes or breaks any app. The main thing here is to be consistent throughout the app. Like the navigation has to be the same wherever you are in the app. What Gal mentioned, for example, for screen readers, the jump to content button needs to be on every page. Otherwise, like if a certain page is missing it, then some users will be like super confused. They won't be able to skip to content where they're used to. And in general, I mean, if every product or most products had similar navigation, similar UX, similar jump to content buttons, then the whole world would be a way more like simple place. Next thing, which like definitely makes sense, is element order. It's important for designers and for developers is to arrange all the content in an order that makes sense. That way, for everybody, including people who are using screen readers or voiceover tools, they can use the app, navigate the product in a way that you defined it, that makes sense. Next part is also related to navigation. One crucial thing is to let the users exit any part of the app and not to let them get lost in the app. In case they user gets lost in your product, then it's like super bad. Don't let it happen ever. So simple exit options are crucial. in case users created any kind of progress, for example, they are like paying a bill or they're submitting a long form and something interrupts them, they need to be able to continue later. So they either progress needs to be saved or they need to be able to create a draft and continue afterwards. Another important, actually, like all the things that Anna and I are mentioning today are the what first Anna mentioned are the web content accessibility guidelines. Like we went through all those guidelines, simplified them a bit, so they they can be used day by day. And as we are designing, as we are implementing apps, we have like a simple, quick, easy reference to create accessible stuff. The next thing is not to let users change context without confirmation. We have an example here. Let's imagine it's a quiz or it's a form or it's, I don't know what, something like this. And this happens. When you press intermediate level, the form is submitted. Or it goes to the next level. What do you think, what is wrong here? What isn't right?
It confirms in selection?
Yes, exactly. So in case, maybe users expect further explanation when they select this option, or maybe they're expecting, like maybe they change their mind even after they pressed it. So what needs to happen is that like selection is one step, the submission is another step. It's simple, but if you want to check the accessibility of your product, then like details like this are super important. And there's a ton of details, but hey, that's why we are here. Next one is, I'm sure everybody is familiar with this one. If you're using iPhone or macOS and you're sending files over AirDrop, you get this small pop-up, and there's the list of possible recipients, and like you need to select who you want to send the file to, and the list refreshes on its own, and you don't know when it's going to refresh. So it might happen that it's like based on distance and I don't know what. And what can happen is that right after you press it, select a contact, the list refreshes, and you select somebody else, which is bad. That's why what we're missing is like kind of a refresh button or something similar, which lets you control when the list will change and reshuffle, basically. Time-dependent functionalities are usually related to some super specific use cases that are related usually to banking or telecom stuff, where we have to limit users with time for security reasons. However, there are like two super important things for this. One is to always show users how much time they have left, so they're not surprised when like time is up. And the other one, in case time runs out, let's find a way, even though it's a security risk, like let's think about it more, let's find alternative solutions to let users have more time in case it's needed. And the last thing, I would say it's the most important one, is to have a language picker in a prominent place inside the app. What happens usually is that the language selection is in settings or like on the very bottom of the page. So you have to navigate a website which is not in your language, maybe it's not even in your script, and you have to find the language selector and change to your language, which is pretty bad. So like the main thing related to language is have it like on the very beginning of the website, like above the logo, above the main navigation, or if it's a mobile app, let's have it as a part of the registration process or login flow. Or part of onboarding or whatever it is, just make sure it's at the beginning.
Thank you, Emanuel. Okay. So now I will talk about shaping a product's content because it's important that all users can understand, perceive content we are showing to them. So first, all visual type of content that delivers some important information to the user, whether that's an image or illustration, needs to have a textual alternative. Now, this is a team effort, basically, because developers put it in code, but we as designers, if we are providing a visual, we should also think about providing a short description of the visual. Gal was also showing an example of the cat, and we talked a little bit about AI tools that could maybe help us, but at the end, it's on us to make sure it's correctly represented. Regarding video and audio type of content, we also need to make sure that those contents have alternatives, such as videos need to contain captions and audio would need to contain a transcript. So in design, we can also make sure that there is an entry point for that, but also make sure that the team we are working with is aware of this. Regarding written content, we should always strive for simplicity. So we should avoid large paragraphs of heavy text. If there is some complex data, we should provide some visual aid so that it's easier for users to scan through that data. Also make sure that language that is used is inclusive and avoid being using platform-specific words such as tap or click. We can instead of that choose either select or choose. Also, we should keep text aligned to the left for better reading. That, of course, depends on the market you're designing for. And we need to make sure that related content is grouped together. That also aids the scanning of the content. Now, here's an example of 3 different choices user has. And I would like to ask you, what do you think can be improved in terms of accessibility here? Does anyone have an idea? That's okay, I will show you. So you see here, all 3 buttons have select as their copy. But what can be improved here is actually the buttons can contain copy that is self-explanatory, and that buttons can be understood by text alone. This is important especially for users who use screen readers who cannot perceive 3 different options at the same time, and maybe it will even read to them in an order like select, select, select. Then the user will not be able to make an informed decision. But if a screen reader reads to them select ID verification, select age estimation, select credit check, then the user will understand the action user will need to take by just listening to the text of the button. So now I will cross over to UI design. This is where designers can have direct influence in building more accessible products, and I will show you which accessibility criteria to tackle when designing. The most famous one everyone always talks about is the color contrast. So there is a minimal ratio provided by WCAG for small text and large text. There's a ratio that needs to be followed. There are tons of tools you can use, plugins. I personally like this from Adobe because it also provides me with the color contrast for graphical elements, because not only we need to make sure that text has enough contrast, but also interactive elements such as icons and buttons. And here I can see if that passes the ratio. Another cool tool is this color contrast grid. It's a Figma plugin. It takes all of the color styles from your file and creates, it cross-checks all the color combinations, and it tells you which ones are eligible and which are not for the minimal contrast ratio. Next thing, I have an example of a wrong password. Again, a question to you. Can someone tell me what can be improved here?
What's wrong? Feedback isn't just the color of the text box.
Exactly. So we should avoid depending only on color to communicate a message to user because color cannot be perceived by every user. So we should add additional visual indicators such as icons and text as a continuation of that message to the user. There are other examples for like when we are designing different states as active or inactive, or when we are designing graphs. I mean, we're all really guilty of choosing only color here, but we can think about additional solutions, such as maybe implementing patterns or adding icons so that we don't communicate only through color. Sometimes we can communicate only through color, but then we need to make sure that we tested it out to see how it behaves in different colorblind situations. There are also a number of tools and plugins. This one is a Figma plugin, Colorblind Simulator, and it shows your design in different color blindnesses. Next to think about is focus states. This is important for users who navigate through with a keyboard through content, and usually all browsers have their native focus states, but sometimes they can blend in with your design and may not be perceived by users. So that's why we need to make sure in design that for interactive states we provide a focus state aligned with developers on what should it be, so that we can aid that. Next thing is touch target area. There is a minimum touch target area that needs to be respected for Android and iOS devices, also on web. So we need to make sure when we are designing buttons, icons, cards, that there is enough space around it for users to tap on it or click. That doesn't mean that we have to design icons that need to be at least 44 pixels. No, they can be 1624, but the space around it should be acquainted. Also, yeah, just to mention, there needs to be at least 8 pixels of space between interactive elements as well. Next thing, really important, is labels. Don't skip on them. It reduces cognitive load, it saves users time, and users are less prone to make mistakes. So when you're designing forms, inputs, use labels. Also, overall, when creating page layouts, make sure that they are consistent, following a linear type of layout, include page titles and section headings. This all helps users to easily scan through the content and reduces cognitive load. I will finish off with responsive design. So you need to make sure to test your design on a range of devices, starting with the smallest one, but also support what happens if user increases their font size to 200%. So what happens to content? Does it get lost, locked? You need to align with developers on this, how your visual elements need to scale so that everything is actually accessible. And yeah, that's it from the design part.
Thanks. And the only thing that remains is just to implement all of this and to test it, right? We won't discuss this today. It's a completely separate topic. However, we had 2 different talks about testing and implementing accessible products in Podgorica and in Skopje. And both of those talks are available on YouTube, so feel free to check it out. In case you would like to know more, a good place to start would be our blog, where we have a series of blog posts where we discuss what's it like to incorporate accessibility into your company, and also like all kinds of stuff, what it's like to design, implement accessible stuff for Android, iOS, mobile, web, how to test it, everything. In case you would like to know even more about it, we have our handbook, which is like a knowledge base of like all the things we know basically, and it has a huge accessibility section with all the things that I mentioned. So about mobile, web, testing, everything. And it's free, it's great, go check it out. Another thing is our community Figma file. You don't have to be a designer to use it. You can just scan the QR code and open the link on your computer. And there you can see this document, which helps you compare all the features your product that you're working on has with all the like accessibility guidelines, and that way you can, yeah, basically evaluate how accessible your product is, which is, I mean, a great place to start before you start fixing it, right? And for the end, I would like to say that basically usability and accessibility is what makes good products good and good design good. And as Gal said, crucial is to treat accessibility as integral part of the entire process, because it can be added only at the very end. That way it doesn't work that well, it's way more expensive, it's way better to like treat it as a integral part from the very beginning. And that will be it. Do you have any questions? Go ahead, Željko.
Yeah, I have a question, a sub-question for both of you.
Uh-huh.
So at first, what's your most favorite social network app? And please don't say Slack. Just pick something
Social
more.
network app, I mean, Instagram probably for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Instagram also?
Instagram also.
Okay. So what's, let's say that both of you need to provide one accessibility suggestion for Instagram web. What would that be?
That's a good question.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's an app that's pretty much dependent on visual type of content, which is images and videos. So alternatives for that, like that each image has a description, but that's on to also who is posting. Like they can provide alt text, like just in caption, sometimes in comments as well. But we cannot rely really on.
Yeah, that opens like another set of problems. You know, people could post pretty much anything in the text. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll text. Okay, you passed the.
The
What's your suggestion?
maybe it would be great. I'm not sure if it has it. Maybe it has it already. But if all pictures and videos could be like scanned and like the alt text maybe can be generated on its own, then like yeah, like everybody can be aware of what content on a photo is, for example, or on a video. For example, actually nowadays, I didn't know, but nowadays, like when people are not too sure how to like do something, I don't know, change a light bulb on a car, or I don't know, fix whatever it is at home, they go to TikTok and like search for stuff, how it's done there. And like I was thinking, okay, I mean, that's great. Then, okay, maybe that TikTok is useful for somebody. But also, like, well, what about blind people? They still have to Google stuff and search for like normal websites where they can, where the content can be read to them. And maybe if there was support for such apps where, I mean, I want to say that all content is moving to video, like, because it's more engaging and I don't know. And maybe if like video by default had some like either like closed captions or explanations by default, maybe that would make sense.
Actually, I checked Instagram. They have accessibility settings, and I think they put captions for you can like turn it on for video type of content. I didn't test it out, but I saw it that it actually has.
Nice, nice.
I mean, a lot of creators already have captions usually in their videos.
Yeah.
And I know that there is an external app that generates those captions for you, but it's not integrated like in the platform.
I have a question, maybe in general. Like, if you compare maybe design and UX, like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, when we were aiming to reduce the steps and buttons, and like it was really like, let's cut everything. Let's, like, you know, you have a road and then you have user experience road over the grass. So that was the mission, and how we can now compare that to maybe coming back to some steps because of the accessibility. Because now we are adding more and more buttons and some other flows and steps into the screens. Is that something? I mean, how that affects, you know, on the old maybe design, and when we are adding some new features into some old, for example, mobile application.
I would say that main accessibility standards and design standards didn't really change over time. Just over time, we decided to just add more stuff and make things more complicated for sake of like making more money or adding more features and rushing things maybe. So I think it's for something, for example, I know good navigation, like it didn't evolve. Like good navigation is basically I would say, it's the same as it was before. So maybe for some things it would be good to like keep things, you know, simple and yeah, not to overcomplicate stuff. Yeah, hard to say. What do you think?
I think we should not avoid testing, but testing also with impaired types of people. I mean, there are different types of impairments, so different criteria will be needed for different type of impairments. But yeah, what I noticed is that in design we usually, you know, strive for simplicity, and for that we may reduce really some necessary steps, like Emanuel had in his example. Like before user submits a form, they need to make an informed decision and need to have a button before doing that. So it's going to, like, for designers we need to make it actually how to say, I won't say more ugly, but we in order to make accessible products we sometimes need to reduce the minimalistic approach.
Compromise.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it's a good way. I'm asking because it's a lot of time. I mean, sometimes you have a situation with a client when they are asking why do we have this button, and so these are some situations where we have that challenges in demos and presenting the design, and it's something what we need to aware our clients and why these buttons are there.
Accessibility is a really strong argument for clients, and especially, I mean, we talked about ticking a box, but it will be like that for a lot of clients when 2025 comes. So it's going to be a valid reason, I would say, to say because of accessibility. Yes.
Just one more follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love the comment that you made, regarding the compromise. So, in your opinion, do you think that with the technology advancements that are happening on the market and it's going to happen on the market the next, 10 to 15 years, do you think that the accessibility will be harder than it is today, or harder than it was 10 years ago when we were just developing, for feature phones and browsers that didn't support responsive design, or do you think that accessibility will get easier? Supporting this accessibility, sorry.
I can imagine it will get easier because the way I see it, the timeline, how it went, now you have more and more tools you can use. You have solutions that are already given to you. We just need to make it part of the process. Like, that's the tricky part. But once you become aware, I mean, a lot of designers today, maybe they're not aware of all of the accessibility criteria, but partially they're already designing with accessibility, but they're not even aware. It will take some time to get like awareness up, but I think like with the tools and the right approach, it will become easier.
Go ahead.
So if you're saying that it's going to become easier, you were saying actually we should wait with the implementation.
Well, sorry, I need to disclose, we are designers, so when we are talking about accessibility here, that's our perspective. what we can do from design alone. But yeah, of course, when it comes to implementation, don't take my word for it. I think developers should answer that.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you have an idea? Hard to say. Yeah, I would say
it's probably going to get easier as most of the things are getting easier to ChatGPT, but yeah, I think like the most common problem is what you described, that we have to get like clients aware that this is not something that we need to sell them this as something that should automatically be implemented and not like ad hoc.
Yeah, I agree. Any other questions or comments? If not, then that would be it. Feel free to stay here with us to chat, to discuss the things we were talking about, and yeah, to meet you all. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.